Estamos continuando en el showcase de Xbox en San Francisco y tengo a mi lado a una gran leyenda del mundo de los videojuegos y él es Peter Molyneux, que nos va a hablar de Fable II. Vamos a arrancar con esto. Peter, thank you so much for giving us this time. Well, first I'd like to ask you about what do you think is the single most important thing, not just the feature, the single most important thing in Fable II?
Wow, that's such a difficult question to answer. I mean, there's so much that there's so many things I could do. I mean, I could choose the dog, I could choose the fact that there's nothing like him in any other game that's ever existed before. I could choose the dynamic co-oping, the fact that you could come in and go out. I could choose the storyline, I could choose the interactive cutscenes, the road contract, the list goes on and on forever. But I think the single most important thing ends up being the freedom that you have. You have the freedom to be the player you want to be. The freedom to pay attention to the cutscenes that you want to play, the freedom to buy anything in the world, the freedom to explore wherever you like, the freedom to approach this story in any way you wish. And that freedom means that it's your world, it's your character, it's your story, and I think that ultimately is the coolest element.
I think with Fable 2 you're becoming something of a spectator, something like that, because you spectate the story and you act the story. I think you're kind of doing both things, or am I wrong?
I think that's right. I mean, I think it's very interesting. I think what has ended up, the story in Fable 2, because of all these freedoms, because of all these abilities to do that, and because you can change things while the story's going on, it is a different approach. Now, don't get too obsessed about that, because all of this emoting and changing and expressions in a story, it's not going to mean that you're going to have unlimited endings to the story. The story is going to end in the same sort of way, although I'd love to tell you about the end of the story because it's really dramatic. It's going to end in a similar sort of way for most people. But I think you're right. I think there is, not only in Fable 2, but in a lot of games, we're starting to tell stories in a very different way. In a different way than you experience them watching films, or in a different way you experience them when you read books.
Well, and one final question. I really like to ask this question to the people I interview, and it's something pretty bold. I like to ask them, tell us a secret. Tell us something you haven't told anyone about Fable 2.
I could tell you the release date, but I'm not allowed to. There's PR people around all the way that would probably throw a knife in my back when I did. Okay, I could tell you about co-op and the real big feature behind co-op, and I can't tell you about that. So I'm going to have to think of a feature that I haven't spoken about yet, and that is about these things called expressions. We had them in Fable 1, and this is the ability to just press a button and your character would start doing things. They'd start doing things like hugging people or laughing. What you didn't know is that all these expressions are called extendable. And extendable expressions, the longer you hold down the button, you can turn a laugh into a manic laugh. You can hold down the button for like a minute or 2 minutes, and everybody around you will start thinking, oh my God, he's gone mad. And that's just really cool. And using those extendable expressions, you can go up to anybody in the world and you can play little mini games with those extendable expressions and trick the population around Fable out of little rewards.
Nice.
So I don't think anybody's heard of that feature.
Okay, well, Peter, thank you so much for these insights.
No, that's all. Pleasure.
Vamos a continuar con muchísimo más porque todavía hay mucho por ver por aquí.